Hi, I had promised to do a video of the books that I read in 2024 and maybe give you a little bit of an insight into why I love the book that I loved, a little bit of a story about them, and hopefully you'll be enticed enough and find them and read them as well in your own time. My name is Mark Ngotonye. I'm, of course, the owner of this page. So without further ado, and in no particular order, I'll just start with the books that in 2024 made me happy reading them. Starting with the first one, The Last Gift by Abdulrazak Garner. I've been a fan of Abdulrazak, and in this story, his prowess in writing continues to shine. He tells the story of Abbas, an old man, a sailor, who currently now lives in Exeter in the UK. So between him, his wife, and their two children, there is a very huge gap of things that they don't know about him and things he never really talked to anyone about himself. So he gets into an accident, and then he starts slowly, with old age comes memory loss and things like that. So he tells his story in these bits and pieces for his son and daughter to come and understand him better. So it's a tale that, took me into a reflection of an old age, what might happen when you have an old parent, or, secrets in the family, and the whole nature of secrets and how they might impact other people in our lives. So this particular book, a very beautiful one, if you want to leave that old age and also know the kinds of secrets that people carry, how to go about in the family, but most importantly for a person who is an immigrant, because Abdulrazak writes a lot about immigrants and their stories, especially immigrants coming from the eastern coast of Africa. So this is not short of that story, but a beautiful tale that tells the story of Abbas and his family. So next one in our list, we have A Case of Exploding Mangoes by Muhammad Hanif. This one is a comical book about the death of the then Pakistani military dictator General Zia-ul Haq, whose plane fell from the sky on 7th of August 1988. A backstory of that is they're trying to find the source. Why did the plane fall? And of course, we have a person here called Ali Shigri, who is a military man, but also a son of a colonel, Shigri. And he is telling us, or he's walking us through the tale of how and when and the things that happened that led to that particular plane. This is a story that has been told in different kinds of takes, and this is Muhammad Hanif, slightly comical tale, but still has the elements of what really happened in that time. So if you like military men, stories from the eastern Pakistan and all that, this is a nice book to read. It's an old one. It was longlisted for the Man Booker Prize in 2008, but still the story is so beautiful when you love. The writing flows very nicely and the characters follows their arc very, very nice and beautiful. Another one is this one. I have so many words to say about this book. You could just see how the bookmarks and all these notes and everything. I really love the book Barua Ndefu Kama Hii by Mariam Abba. And for anyone who is looking for the English translation, it's called So Long a Letter by Mariam Abba. It's about Ramatulai, and she's writing a letter to her friend. And in this letter, she's detailing her life, because she's writing it at a time when her husband has died. So all the proceedings about the death of a person, customaries and all that, reflections, everything is in here. And it's told firsthand from a woman POV. And at that, a widow who is still in mourning. It's a beautiful book, sad at times, but to me, it challenged me to see the roles of a woman. I think this one shows you how long the journey might be, because it won an award in 1980. It's still very, very vivid in today's world. It's like 40 years after. and we still are struggling with some of the things that were mentioned here. I have to point out that it's not about just like a woman in mourning, but it's a woman in mourning, her husband, how she's relating to the society at large, and everything else surrounding her. You'll find everything in here. It's very short. As you can see, it's a very thin book, but the subjects or the lessons that you come to find from this are so profound and so huge. You might really write a thesis just about this book and what happened in the book. So this, if it's not like the topmost of my list for 2024, then it just is in the top 3. It's something that I recommend to everyone whenever I meet them, that you should read this book. It is beautiful. It will make you feel different feelings, but mostly it will make you stop, question, and look at the society and how the society treats a woman. And this is the very first lens. You see it from the get-go, and you get to understand in depth what it is all about. A beautiful, beautiful story about Pachinko. And the name suffices, Pachinko by Min Jin Lee. I came across this book from the series, and safe to say I love the series. And when it went to break, I said I had to find the book and read it. It's a story about Koreans in Japan, but it spans a very long time, from the 1910s all the way to 1989. A very beautiful cross-generation story with a beautiful background and context, a number of very interesting characters. I might say that the women in this book play a very significant role in how things turn around. But I must say, as in the series, I still feel that I loved Ko Han-soo and how he was. That is one of the characters in the book. But maybe if you find time to read it, you might have a different take. But everything else said and done, it's a wonderfully crafted story that spans generation. I loved how Min Jin Lee crafted this story, how she told it from the 1910s all the way to 1989. It's such a wonderful way of writing and such a wonderful story as well. So if you can, this is also something that you should put in your TBR, or you should get for yourself and read it. It's such a powerful story. And you know, the fact that these are immigrants, these are Korean immigrants in Japan, and their kids should really like formulate an idea of how these things are going. And, you know, at the brink of like World War and all that, it's such a wonderful text, this one. I might say that everything that I read is wonderful, and I try to find books that are very interesting. But this one, A Little Life, this was something that I read out of peer pressure. And I must say that maybe till today, I don't know how to feel about it. The story about 4 friends, Malcolm, JB, Willem, and Jude, and how they navigate life. But at the core of it is the pain that is in the book. Everyone who I've seen social media reactions coming from this book, is either they are crying or they're in the middle of the book and, you know, they don't know how to feel. And this is that book. It's actually a very painful book. This is a book that makes you feel pain in your body. And I went as far as to question what exactly was Min Jin Lee, what exactly did Hanya think or conceptualize when she was writing this book? Safe to say, I don't have the answer, because how can you write so much pain in one book? It's a thick one, as you can see, but it is really, really, really beautifully written. At some parts, I was like, why is this suffering? Why this extreme suffering? But it makes sense at the very end. And I mean, safe to say, I had to extend my bedtime just to make sure that I catch up with this and finish it in time. And I don't regret any of those days that I pulled long nights just to read this one, because it is really worth it. But if you have a small heart, or your tears are very close, I think it is something that you should read slowly, but the amount of pain that is inside the book is something that is profound in one way or another. I think that maybe says a lot about me than about the book, but there is so much pain in here. And a lesson as to how writers can be blessed with this immense talent of making otherwise these very gripping, sad stories into things that we can also feel. So the power of literature to make you feel things is in this book. This one, A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. This is another book, a very small one. As you can see, it comprises only 3 stories in here. It's called Judges by 3 Italian writers, Camilleri, De Cataldo, and Localleri. So these are 3 stories about judges, as the title is saying, but it's about crime, the nature of it and how we interact with it in society. It's written a bit like, thriller, but it's an Italian one. So a little bit of mobs here and there, how people try to go around the law and all that. It was a refreshing take on that genre. I love to see how these judges get to the end of cases and, how just, different people other than English writers, how they do write. And it's a small book, only 3 stories in here, but it's such a high quality book. I loved it for that. And how it feels, it's very beautiful. The stories as well, they are going to move you. So what happens when you are a university professor and there is a scandal and you have to publicly apologize, but somehow you don't think you want to do that? Ever thought of that? If you haven't, like me initially, then this one is for you. This is Disgrace by James Coetzee. It won the Man Booker Prize for 1999. It's a beautiful book set in South Africa. And you see that dog there? There's a story of animal shelter in here that plays a very crucial part in how our professor goes back and sees life. A very beautiful weaved tale of ego and the nature of human beings, but also the power of literature in here. The professor goes and does all these things about writing and all that, trying to rehabilitate himself. I wouldn't give too much about the tale in here, but this one moved me in how the writer really tried to show the humanity. He humanized the experience of working in an animal shelter and how that can have a significant impact on how we see life as human beings, because we move around. But sometimes the things that are going to change us are things that we would never thought that they're going to change us. I think that is what they call an arc, and it's beautifully written in this James Coetzee Disgrace. He's a wonderful writer, plays with language like nobody, and I love it for that. We say that love is a universal language, but this was Love in the Time of Cholera by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Is such a gripping tale about love, and sometimes maybe shows the absurdity of it all, the heights that love can reach into making us, question even our own sanity. This guy, Florentino Ariza, waited for 51 years, 9 months, and 4 days for Fermina Daza. Now, what happened in all that time? More than half a century. That is the mastery that Gabriel Garcia Marquez weaves in this tale. Magic realism is the thing that we know Gabriel Garcia Marquez for. And 100 Years of Solitude is his magnum opus. But this one book, I found it to be a little bit easier to understand of his tales. Of course, he has a lot of other novellas. But this one was easy enough to grasp, not as hard as 100 Years of Solitude, but also beautifully capturing what really he was trying to pass out as a message using his signature writing style. A beautiful, settling book that will have you question the nature of love and what love means for you. The Lives of Others by Neil Mukherjee. I have a lot to say about this book. A lot, But the cover, this is a beauty. It is actually a scene in the book. I loved it so much. Like upon just seeing the cover of the book, I was like, I need to get that. And those are like some of the very rare incidences where you're like, oh, I love the book. Oh, I love the cover first, and then I end up loving the book. This is that case. It's a case about a family, the Goshes, and their whole run family for almost a century. And it starts in 1967 in Calcutta. And one of the family members finds himself in trouble, political trouble to say. And from there onwards now, we get a glimpse into the family, how it works, its history, and its future, because we come to see it as a very beautiful ending to the story. Sometimes it gets a bit, overwhelming to read the text, to join the stories. But when you find the time to settle, it is such a gripping tale. It is so well written. The story is so vivid. The characters, the struggles, and the political movement in here, it's something that you might never know it existed. But how it existed is so well and beautifully captured in the book. So, The Lives of Others by Neil Mukeje was also one among my favorites from the past year, 2024. And I'll definitely say you get it and read it. Beautiful. Now, to finish it up, this story by Kamila Shamsi, Home Fire. First off, the cover, beautiful, colorful. But the story is, we can say, like a modern take on Sophocles' Antigone tale. It has 4 characters, 3 family members and 1 outsider, navigating life. But they are all immigrants. And it forces us to think about the nature of love. But also, I find it more than love. This book communicated about, or answered, or asked me a question. Where really is home for an immigrant? Or even the children of immigrant. Where is their home? Where do they settle? Is it their parents' country or the country that they were born? It's such a beautifully crafted tale. And Kamila Shamsi herself said she took a challenge of writing Antigone in modern times, and this is what came out. A beautiful, gripping tale. Again, another writer that is charms or goes in her own way and writes a very wonderful, beautiful story. She has other stories, other books that are equally beautiful. But this one is one of those tales. It won Women Prize for Fiction in 2018. And also it was, it is in the list of the New York Times 100 notable books. So this is not your normal kind of book. It's beautiful. It makes you think, but it also makes you question these kinds of questions, especially under the current scenarios. So those are 10 books. And funny doing this one. I hope we could have a conversation more. What did you read? What did you enjoy in 2024? And maybe what are you looking forward to reading in 2025? If you want to see a video of what I'm planning to read in 2025, I tend to have a very messy reading calendar. I can definitely make a video for that. Just let me know in the comments. But more importantly, what did you read in 2024? What did you read in 2024? How would you rate it, if at all you could rate it? What would you recommend to a friend? I want this video to be about that. Recommend the books on the comment section so that other people may also find them. But also, if you have read either of the books that I've mentioned, how did they make you feel? Do you think they're still measuring up as beautifully written books? Anything that you can share with the audience that makes sense, please do. And that's the end of this video. Thank you very much for sticking up to this very end. I was your host. I'm used to saying that, Mark Ngotoniye. Till next one, bye-bye.